Welcome back. When we left, Robert Goddard had launched the first liquid fuel rockets.
Something that we have failed to accomplish thus far.
We have failed to accomplish. Something tells me this is a little bit too tall.
Yeah.
Some other things that Robert Goddard had accomplished is he successfully predicted that we could launch rockets in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
And he had sort of slightly sent himself, but also slightly been sent to New Mexico to do science. So I'm going to make this less grandiose. Instead of just not hyperbolic, it's just normally grandiose. Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
And let's see if I can't move the base down a little bit.
So wait, is it not hyperbolic because at this point the delta V needed isn't gonna we're not gonna escape Earth's gravity?
Well, it's one stage, so we weren't going to escape Earth's gravity.
Yeah, that's fair.
Way.
That's fair.
So some terminology that we just referred to, delta V. I'm going to put this on. No, that's not the right one. We're going to put this on, and we're going to see in the corner here still nothing. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slap some solid. I'm going to slap the tallest solid boosters we have. I'm going to slap 4 of these on here. And are we going to see any delta V? Do I even have delta V on here? I do have delta V on here. And still, there's no motion. Oh, golly. We're going to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Grandiose Dragon Ball Z is going to start with just a solid rocket booster.
Yeah. Awesome.
And you see in the corner here, we now have this number. This is our delta V. This is the change in velocity that we can accomplish with just this. And we see we're going to add, for stability, some basic fins down to the bottom here.
Right.
And I'm going to look at our center of weight and our center of pressure. Center of weight here in yellow, and center of pressure, the center of the airflow, here in blue. And we want this behind the center of weight so that, like an arrow, it sort of self-corrects. Now from here, do we want to risk a person? I don't think so. I'm just going to toss...
Yeah, I'd throw something on top, though, so that you don't just have a flat plate.
Yeah. So here is essentially a robot thing, so we can control it. So we can just see something launch. Save our Grandiose Dragon Ball Z. Okay. Mark 1.
Yep. Yeah.
Definitely
there's
the first
room for improvement. There's room for improvement.
Just the first. Definitely the first one there's ever been.
Yes.
As we talk about the first application of rockets, I'll say semi-successfully by the Nazis in World War II.
Yeah, it was the Nazis.
Yeah. So...
bit of context. Going into the 30s and 40s, there were a bunch of clubs, basically societies that practiced rocketry on their own. A lot of them were sort of amateurs, but there's this one in particular, the German group. I think they're VFR.
Yes.
Verein für Raumschifffahrt.
You would know better than I.
Yeah, I still probably butchered that. I speak some German, but I haven't looked at that word before, and it's a bigger word. It means space travel. But the VFR, right, was a bunch of Germans. Several of them were amateurs. Several of them were more accomplished scientists. And for a while they were a pretty cool bunch. They had a couple of really, really important figures in rocketry in general as part of their group. Specifically, I'm thinking of Hermann Oberth, who had some really, really interesting things to say about the dynamics of rocketry and spaceflight.
Not to interrupt you, but we are currently in space.
Yes, congratulations. We've
did
done it.
Lose our little robot at the top.
You know what?
So we're not controlling anything, but it's fine. We know the trajectory, and it is straight up, very far away.
Good. And
then straight back down.
Yeah, Apikerbin. But yeah. So the VFR, right? Going into World War II, the Nazis kind of saw some potential in rocketry for delivering explosive payloads to things that they wanted to hit, like Great Britain and Russia and everywhere that wasn't them, basically.
So why they saw this potential was in part through these clubs, but also sort of what rocketry was, the promise of what rocketry could be accomplishing, which at that point was getting closer to hypersonic speeds, as well as distances where you don't need to man your planes at that point, and so you can launch from a distance without putting your own people at risk.
Right.
There is definitely nothing analogous to that in modern day warfare.
Can't think of a single thing.
So it's a shame that we can't sort of relate that to something in the modern day. No. Nothing sort of unmanned.
Yeah.
That is sort of from the air.
It's a line of reasoning that has been lost to time.
Yeah, something about like precision strikes.
Yeah,
definitely no civilian casualties.
No,
none.
never. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, the hypersonic component is important there, because if it's hypersonic, it means no one can hear you coming. There's no time to react. One of the predecessors to the sort of most famous German rocket / early rocket of all time was called a buzz bomb. It was basically a flying bomb, but it traveled at subsonic speeds, and so you would hear this sound as it was approaching. It would just sound like a loud buzz, and so people. There was definitely some psychological warfare there, but people could respond in kind when that was coming. With the rocketry itself, with a hypersonic rocket, there would be no way to interact like that.
Mm-hmm. You have to know beforehand that it's coming, and then having an actual plane shoot it down would be very difficult because it's moving incredibly fast. Very because fast. It was the Brits who sort of encountered the first ones, the buzz bombs. They also named them doodle bugs, which is just endearing in a horrifying way. Yeah. You can see where the farthest. Where did the planet even go? There it is. We're very far. We are approaching, if not at, our apocenter, which is the furthest point, which is would somehow would be called the apokerbin. Yep. If we really wanted.
There we go. Oh, we're coming in hot.
Oops.
We're coming in hot.
Yeah, we're about to come in incredibly hot. In fact, we are already
God.
in progress.
Here we go.
Very hot.
Okay. We can probably salvage that, right?
Yeah. Where on the planet are we?
I don't know.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But anyway, way back from a tangent here. The VFR, right? The Nazis saw potential in what they were doing, and so they basically took over and sponsored the VFR. Some people got out of Dodge. Hermann Oberth did not work for the Nazis. He left. He dropped off the face. But some people didn't do that. Some
people saw this as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Don't call him hypocritical. Instead, apolitical. Yeah. Here enters Werner von Braun, someone who is very much the could be seen as sort of instigating the archetype of the scientist who will do anything to further their research. Just a genuinely complicated, but I would say still despicable figure.
Yeah.
So this is someone who not only worked with the Nazis, but used the platform of Nazism to further power in order to, again, progress his research. Mm-hmm. He was not just a member of the Nazi Party, he was a full-on SS officer. Yeah. Want to talk about what he made?
Yeah. So Werner here, his real dream was a liquid fuel rocket that could do all of that stuff that we were mentioning before, and would further the goal of potential space flight and all of that. He ended up coming up with what was, I mean, like the phrase "real winner" is really gross considering what it entails, but He made something. He and his scientists made something called the V2 or the V2 flying bomb. Sometimes, it was a liquid fuel rocket. It's kind of the classic image of a rocket that you'll get from like 50s and 60s like portrayals of
ray gun kind of.
Yeah. But the V2, I don't remember all the specs, but it launched.
I got some of the specs here. I have my notebook.
Yeah, let me see. I can also pull open my notes here. So it accomplished hypersonic flight. It accomplished carrying a bomb. It was radio controlled.
It left about a 20-meter crater.
Mm-hmm.
It mostly was launched against Antwerp and against London.
Mm-hmm.
Its range was just far enough to get to there and sort of try and stay out.
Yeah, I have here about like 320 kilometers, something like that.
And if you launched it vertically, you could get it to 85 to 90 kilometers. This is the edge of space.
Yeah. That is past some definitions of the Kármán line, which is where space begins. It's not at other definitions of the Kármán line. People kind of contest what that point is. And indeed, it changes based on atmospheric conditions day to day, but in terms of sort of an overarching definition of what space is, arguably, this was one of the early things that made it into space.
That's too big.
But yeah, the V2 was an interesting project in that, to some extent, everyone was jealous because it was a weapon that was really, well, it did what it tried to do very well. Not everyone should have been as jealous as they wanted. It had some pretty glaring flaws that ended up making it a kind of cruddy weapon for war long term.
Part of it was its development. So especially back then, making liquid fuel was I'll say tricky endeavor. And a very sort of temperamental one. It didn't help that they were making liquid fuel inside of a mountain.
Yep.
So in order to keep this very secret, they made their I almost said their base. It was their base. Their factory. They made their factory on the inside of a mountain. They carved out a mountain to make these things. And as they were Nazis, they figured they needed staff for this endeavor, both hollowing out a mountain and making rocket fuel and all of that. And they did what Nazis do with that. So in addition to all of the difficult temperamental aspects of creating rocket fuel and doing so underground, it was done with slave labor. Yeah. So to talk about sort of how effective these were even as weapons in relation to that. That's about to blow up. Let me turn the engine off.
Were there
real quick.
Kerbals in there?
No. This is remote guided.
Gotcha.
This is a radio controlled rocket looking thing.
Yeah.
This is kind of going okay.
Yeah, that's.
It's still going up.
Oh boy, yeah, it's going up. It's going somewhere else too.
This is fine. It's all okay. We're definitely in control. So because these things essentially just dropped TNT, we're in suborbit right now. We're going to go very far up, but we are still going to go to space and come back down.
Inertia, folks.
Yeah, it's fantastic. They killed about 7,000 people in England and Belgium. They were moderately precise compared to a plane bombing. they, as I mentioned before, left that 20-meter crater, which is not insignificant in the slightest. But a not insignificant portion of that was due to just the explosion of the rocket landing, because rocket fuel is volatile and TNT can only do so much. Putting that into perspective, the number of inmates who died over the course of manufacturing V2s was around 20,000. That's a lot.
Yep.
That's a lot of people. Rocketry at that scale, at that time, had a massive human cost that just simply can't be ignored. There's something to be said about, the aspirational element to it, but the human cost of that, through the political situation, I'll say, is something that is impossible to ignore. And that is entirely burnt up.
Yeah, wow.
And we'll talk about, I'll say, the specific aspirational elements of Wernher von Braun next time on Let's Play.
Next time.